You don't choose to think about them this often. If you did, you would have stopped by now. And yet, no matter how busy you are, no matter how much time passes, their presence keeps returning, quietly, persistently, without permission. At first, you tell yourself it's just memory, then attachment, then coincidence. But when a thought returns this consistently, it stops being random. Because the mind doesn't repeat what has been resolved. It repeats what remains open. What no one tells you is that thinking of someone constantly is rarely about the person alone. It's about something unfinished, not always between you and them, but within you. The mind revisits what still holds meaning. The heart circles what hasn't been integrated. And awareness lingers where something is still trying to speak. This is why distraction doesn't work. You can fill your days with noise. You can move forward, meet new people, change your routine. But the thought doesn't disappear. It waits. And returns in quiet moments. Before sleep. During stillness. In the space between thoughts. And when it does, you wonder if it means something more. Is it intuition? Is it connection? Is it unfinished energy? Or is it simply attachment refusing to let go? The truth is more subtle than all of these. Because constant thought is not a message delivered to you. It is a mirror being held up. Most people try to interpret these thoughts as signs about the other person. What they're feeling. What they want. Whether they're thinking of you too. But the mind isn't pointing outward. It's pointing inward. Repetition is the language of unresolved awareness. And the reason this feels so intense is because it bypasses logic. You don't decide when the thought appears. You don't control its timing. It arises on its own, quietly demanding your attention. That's not weakness. That's significance. But significance doesn't always mean destiny. Sometimes it means growth trying to happen. Sometimes it means a lesson still unfolding. Sometimes it means a part of you was activated, seen, reflected, awakened, and hasn't yet found closure. And the mind, unable to complete the process, returns to the source. Again. And again. Not because you want to go back, but because something hasn't finished moving through you. This is why trying to force forgetting never works. Because forgetting is not an action. It's a consequence. It happens only after understanding has settled. Only after meaning has been integrated. Only after the emotional charge has been met with awareness rather than resistance. Until then, the thought persists. Not as punishment, but as communication. The real question is not why you think of them. The real question is what part of you becomes visible when you do. Because constant thought is never empty. It is carrying information. And once you learn how to listen to what it's actually saying, the intensity begins to shift. Not because the thought disappears, but because you no longer need it to repeat itself. When someone keeps appearing in your mind, again and again, it rarely feels dramatic at first. It feels ordinary. A passing thought. A memory triggered by nothing specific. A quiet presence that slips in when you're not paying attention. And that's what makes it unsettling. Because if it were intense all the time, you could name it. You could call it longing. You could call it attachment. You could call it love. But this is different. This is persistence without urgency. Presence without intention. A thought that doesn't demand, it simply remains. And the familiarity of it is what makes you question yourself. You wonder why this person still occupies space inside you, when so much else has moved on. Why their energy feels closer than people who are physically present. Why their memory feels alive instead of distant. The mind tries to explain it logically. It tells you that you're nostalgic, that you didn't get closure, that you're holding on longer than you should. But the mind explains what it can control. This experience does not live there. Constant thought is not about fixation. It is about resonance. When someone enters your life and activates a part of you that had been dormant, the nervous system remembers. Not the events. Not the conversations. but the state you entered when you were with them. How present you felt. How open. How seen. How alive. And once the system has tasted that state, it does not forget it easily. This is why you can miss someone even when you don't want them back. Because what you are missing is not the person. It's the version of yourself that emerged in their presence. That version felt closer to truth, closer to authenticity, closer to who you are beneath adaptation. And when that version retreats, the mind returns to the moment it first appeared. Again and again. Not out of weakness, but out of recognition. This is why thinking of someone constantly does not always mean you should reconnect. Sometimes it means you need to reclaim what they reflected. The confidence, the openness, the sense of permission to be fully yourself. When that part of you is integrated, the thought loses its grip, because it has served its purpose. Another layer of this experience lives in what was left unsaid. Not every connection is meant to be completed externally. Some are meant to be completed internally. A conversation you never had. An emotion you never expressed. A boundary you never held. A truth you never voiced. These incomplete expressions linger, and the mind returns to the person associated with them, because the expression still seeks movement. This is not obsession. It is unfinished emotional energy. And the more you resist it, the louder it becomes. Because resistance traps energy. Awareness releases it. There is also something deeply human about this repetition. We are relational beings. We learn who we are through reflection. When someone sees us clearly, even briefly, it reorganizes our inner world. And when that mirror disappears, the system tries to locate it again. Not because it cannot survive without it, but because it is still learning what it revealed. This is why the thought often appears in moments of stillness. Not when you are busy, not when you are distracted, but when you are quiet. Because quiet removes interference. And what remains is what still matters. You may notice that the thought does not always come with emotion. Sometimes it's neutral. Sometimes it's warm. Sometimes it's heavy. This variability is important. It tells you the thought is not about craving. It's about processing. The psyche revisits experiences until meaning is extracted. And meaning is not intellectual. It is embodied. It settles only when the nervous system understands that what was gained does not need to be lost. This is where many people misunderstand themselves. They assume that if they are thinking of someone, they are regressing. But regression pulls you backward. This pulls you inward. It asks you to notice what the connection awakened, what truth it touched, what desire it clarified, what boundary it revealed. Until those insights are integrated into your present life, the mind will keep circling. Not because it wants the past, but because it is trying to carry something forward. There is also a spiritual dimension to this experience, but not the one people romanticize. It is not always about soul ties or destiny. Sometimes it is about timing. About meeting someone who resonates with who you are becoming, not who you were. And when the timing is incomplete, the awareness lingers. Because the encounter arrived as a preview, a glimpse of alignment, not meant to be held onto, but remembered. This is why the thought feels quiet but persistent. It is not pulling you backward. It is pointing you forward, toward a version of yourself that has not yet fully arrived. The discomfort comes from living ahead of your integration, from sensing something before you are ready to embody it. Once you begin to live from that place, with or without the person, the thought begins to soften, not because you forced it away, but because you caught up to what it was showing you. And this is the most important part. Thinking of someone constantly is not a failure of will. It is a signal of depth. It means something real passed through you, something that mattered. And rather than judging yourself for it, the invitation is to listen more closely. Not to the person, but to yourself. Because when awareness is met with honesty instead of resistance, repetition loses its necessity. And what once felt consuming becomes quietly complete. If you're still here, listening quietly, there's a reason. Because this experience, thinking of someone again and again, doesn't choose random people. It chooses those who are paying attention, those who are already listening inwardly, even when they don't fully understand what they're hearing. And maybe, as these words settle, something inside you feels less tense. Not because the thought disappeared, but because it no longer feels like something is wrong with you. That relief matters. Because the moment you stop treating this experience as a flaw, it begins to reveal its wisdom. You were never meant to erase the memory. You were meant to understand what it carried. The presence of someone in your mind is not a demand to return. It is an invitation to integrate. To ask yourself, gently, without urgency, what did this connection show me about myself that I haven't fully honored yet? What part of me felt more alive, more honest, more open? And where in my life am I still withholding that expression? When you approach the question this way, something shifts. The thought no longer feels like a pull. It feels like a reminder. And reminders are temporary. They exist only until the lesson is lived. This is why forcing yourself to move on never works. Movement that is not rooted in understanding creates fragmentation. But movement that comes from awareness creates peace. You don't need to push the thought away. You don't need to analyze it endlessly. You only need to meet it with curiosity instead of judgment. To let it pass through you without turning it into a story about loss or lack. Because nothing was taken from you.